Hello, everybody. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Today, we will be continuing on with another edition of My Thoughts on My Team. And today, joining us is Bruce Matson, who will be breaking down his favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys. Thanks for joining me, Bruce.
Oh, anytime. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yep. You want to take a minute or so here to tell everyone where they can find your work and what it is you do?
Oh, you can find my work all over the place. My Twitter handle is at Metric Scouts. That's my handle also on TikTok. Sometimes I'm on there. You can find my written content over at dynastyleaguefootball.com. And then I also have a YouTube channel. It's Bruce Matson. It's linked to my Twitter handle if you want to check that out. Also has a handle at Metric Scout as well.
I got to say that one took me a while to figure out. I was tagging the daily rookie profile as it came out on DLF and kind of promoting it. And it took me forever I'm going, where the fuck is Bruce Matson? I know he's on here somewhere. Who is he? And then I'm like, oh, Metric Scout. There he is. So
yeah,
I only figured it out because at the bottom of each rookie profile, there's our little Twitter bio. And I didn't realize it was down there. And I clicked on it and I'm like, he's Metric Scout. There it is.
Yeah.
That's the worst. I have it in some of my leagues too for Sleeper. When people have their name on Twitter and it's not the same on Sleeper, I have such a hard time with it. One guy he's messaging me on Sleeper and messaging me on Twitter to calculate or to coordinate for the podcast. It took me probably 3 days before I realized it was the same person, and I was booking. He's like, "What do you already confirmed with me?" And I'm like, he's like, I kept changing. He's like, "Did you want 7? You said 7 yesterday, and then today you said 8." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" It took me a while to realize I was talking to the same person with 2 different screen names. It drove me fucking. So, without further ado, let me bring up our graphic here and get into it with you. Transition almost seamlessly. I'm getting better at this. All right. As usual, the roster construction is provided by ESPN, so it's not necessarily how I see them, but the quarterback room is pretty safe. We've got us Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush as the backup. Dak has slowly been declining in value, it seems, but I would say he's still pretty easily a QB1. What are your thoughts on the outlook for Dak this year?
I think it's going to be steady like any other year. I think you're going to get very steady, stable production throughout the year. As long as everybody remains healthy, the offensive line's usually where the bugaboo's at. Some years that offensive line just gets a bunch of holes in it through injuries, and that really becomes the issue with the offense. I think Dak is fine. Another year away from that injury, another year back under center. Zeke's gone, but Tony Pollard coming back. That's going to be fine. We got some more offensive weapons here. We got Brandon Cooks on top of CeeDee Lamb with Michael Gallup. Add some power in the wide receiver group. I think Dak's going to be fine. He's going to be stable, probably a little bit better than last year as well.
Do you think he sneaks his way into the top 6, or is he bottoms, like 6 to 12? Bottom, high end or low end QB1?
Mid to low end, probably. Mid to low end. It really depends on the matchups and how those get fueled from a week-to-week game script scenario. That's how that's going to work out. I say it's pretty stable, probably about 8-ish. Probably my guess, 8-ish.
Yeah. Then we have the running back room with probably the luckiest bastard of the weekend in Tony Pollard, who got essentially – no competition. The only people he's got behind him, I guess Malik Davis is, underrated. Ronald Jones, I assume, will be cut before training camp. And Deuce Vaughn, who is the smallest player. I mean, like, I make him look huge, or he makes me look huge. It's been a long day, sorry. But I didn't realize at the time when they drafted him, maybe he gets a shot here because he's the son of someone on the coaching staff. I can't remember who, but I seen the emotional video. So maybe he gets more chances than he normally would at 5'5".
Potentially, yes. There's some jabronis back here behind Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's got a good area to succeed here, a good path, especially if he comes back healthy from that injury. Should get a lot of touches. Ezekiel Elliott's gone. He's leaving a 28% opportunity share. You're talking 526 snaps and 223 rushing attempts from last year. There's a chance he could come back, but also I don't know if we'd want to come back for dirt cheap either. So we might see one of these jabroni backs get a little bit more work than expected. And then really it's ride or die with Tony Pollard with what we have on the board right now. And if he can stay healthy, that's a good thing. But if not, what's going to happen with that? That's the thing. Malik Davis looks like the guy that's probably would be the next man up because he's an incumbent. Ronald Jones is a speculation. And then Deuce Vaughn's that rookie, smaller guy. And BMI is a little higher than what you would think because he looks like Mighty Mouse, a micro machine car back there.
He's electric, though, man.
Yeah. So he can catch the ball in the backfield, and he's a smooth operator. So that could allow them to wheel out some carries if he can work his way up the depth chart. Very solid catching the ball in the backfield. One of the top running backs in market share during his freshman season, sophomore season too. So you got a pass catching guy out there. But Tony Pollard wheels up as long as he's healthy.
You got me to transition midway there. I like to take notes and write down something I like that you particularly liked of what you said, so I can make a little quote graphic to promote the show on social media. I originally had written down what you said about Dak, but anytime you can work a rock reference into it, I had to change the quote. So you will be quoted on saying this backfield is nothing but jabronis behind Pollard.
There you go.
I like it. Anytime you can quote The Rock, I am going with it. So,
that's like one of my key phrases. That's why I roll with that one a lot.
I love it. Yep. I think it's obviously Pollard's backfield here. How high do you think he rises? Top 6? Top 12?
Sky's the limit. As long as he stays healthy, it could be top 6. As long as he stays healthy. We got a new offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer. Historically, he has leaned on the run a little bit, but he can also be even Steven with it. Pollard's going to get his opportunities as long as he's healthy, as long as the offensive line's clicking. That offensive line with the injuries with Tyron Smith and company, we've had some injuries off and on throughout the years. If that offensive line can stay healthy, Tony Pollard's wheels up. He is top 8, top 6, top 5. It's the world's his oyster as long as he's healthy because he can do whatever he wants.
Coming back off of a broken leg, I believe. Does it sound like he's going to be ready to go for the start of the season?
Just looking at this depth chart, that Dallas is telling us that, or they would have made a bigger case for another running back. And they got these pieces together right before the draft. And they're like, yeah, we don't want to go heavy on the running back. We want the draft to come to us. We're going to restructure. We're going to get Malik Davis. We're going to keep him around. We're going to add Ronald Jones, of all people.
Valid point. Yeah, okay. So we'll just wheels up on Tony Pollard, and we'll go with that. We transition now to the wide receiver room, where it's particularly interesting. CeeDee Lamb is the obvious number 1. Newly acquired Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup are the other projected starters. They have Simi Fehoko, who's never really taken off. Kavonte Turpin, I think he operated more as a kick returner last year, if I remember, but he had some flashes. And Jalen Brooks is the rookie, I believe. Was that in a UDFA? I had him ranked pretty low in my rookie ranking, so I feel like he was 7th rounder UDFA.
7th rounder. They also picked up Jalen Cropper Moreno, UDFA.
Oh, yeah.
Fresno State. That was one of the top UDFAs that we picked up. Dontarian Drummond, too, is also on the roster, a bigger guy. But they do a good job at getting these Devy guys that were rankable years ago that you've forgotten about. But then you look at the back end of their roster and you see those names. Oh, Dennis Houston as well.
Well, no, they cut one out that I shouldn't have even cut him out, but they had so many tight ends that I liked that I had to cut one receiver out. And I don't know why I kept Jalen Brooks and cut out Jalen Tolbert.
Yeah.
I know he didn't really do much, but I forgot he was even on this roster. So.
Oh, yeah. Jalen Tolbert. very slow year last year. He's also a G5 guy, so maybe if they get lucky, it just takes an extra year for him to transition. He's also an older wide receiver, so the odds of him just stepping up and just developing like that is very slim, but maybe it happens. Simi Fioco, that guy's got some athleticism to him. Fifth rounder. You don't know about that, though. The odds aren't good, but you have a good three-headed monster here at the top that I think he's kind of getting slept on because you got Brandon Cooks. He's old, but he's been steady everywhere he goes. He's a good air yards machine. You got Michael Gallup's coming back from that knee injury last year, another year removed from that. So Michael Gallup, man, when he was coming out from Colorado State, had that fantastic rookie profile. And then Michael Gallup comes in. It's just been like a steady wide receiver 2-ish, 3-ish type deal over for Dallas before he got injured. And then CeeDee Lamb's always going to CeeDee Lamb it up. So that three-headed monster up there is very good. You need three good wide receivers in the NFL.
I think for me, Cooks is always someone I target because every year he produces and every year he still gets slept on. Gallup, I find I'm starting to lump him in with Michael Thomas. I just feel that they're never freaking healthy. And I think I've had too many years of, okay, I'm going to hold on to Gallup and see where he goes this year. And he's never there. And he spends the whole time on my IR and I forget I have him. But
yeah, he seems better for real football than fantasy football as of late. He's good at getting air yards in some games. And then there's a couple seasons where he's had a large amount of drops. So I think there was one where it was double digits even.
Yeah. Well, transitioning into the part of the lineup that I find particularly interesting is the tight end room, where they have three guys that I think all have solid potential, but all may be busts. I think they had Peyton Hendershot listed as their starter. I chose Jake Ferguson, but they also have Luke Schoonmaker, who I'm a Michigan fan, and he was pretty solid. Like I said, they have to replace Dalton Schultz here. I think all three are capable. I'm hoping they don't do a tight end by committee here, and they just give all of Schultz targets to one of them. Who it'll be, I don't know. Like I said, I think all three of them have some pretty solid upside, and if one of them secures the role to himself, I think I'm going to be targeting whoever that is in later rounds of drafts. What are your thoughts?
I think this is a very interesting tight end group. They got some prospects here on the cheap here as well, because Jake Ferguson, fifth rounder, Hendershot, a late round guy. He had some off the field issues. Luke Schoonmaker, very interesting prospect profile because he's highly athletic, tested very well, and he's good at everything, but not great at anything. So I feel like knowing this team, they are a team that is very practical on draft day. Yeah. And I feel like when they were looking at Luke Schoonmaker, they know this is a guy that they can use soon. They know they can use him at blocking. They know with his size-adjusted athleticism, they know they can use him in the passing game. They know they can use them rather quickly. They have a good feel that they can develop them pretty quickly. And this team, they like to go to the Big Ten for tight ends. Ferguson, Wisconsin. Was it Hendershot? Was it in Indiana?
I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and Schoonmaker's over here from Michigan. So those are the Big Ten guys.
Yeah.
If I had to guess on one, well, we're talking just 2023 here. So what I'm going to guess is they're going to have a camp battle, and whoever is more equipped and more reliable with the play calling, being at the right place at the right time, is who they're going to roll with. They want to go with dependability. That might be Ferguson. However, Schoonmaker has got more upside. This isn't a team that really throws upside out until they're ready to throw upside out. That might be more of a long-term play unless he starts hitting early. But it might be a mix between Ferguson and Hendershot in the beginning, because from reading the tea leaves of this team over the years, I don't know the tendencies of Brian Schottenheimer because he's new here, but I imagine dependability is pretty big here, and I think they're going to go with a mix of Ferguson, Hendershot, and a Schoonmaker, probably more of a 2024, late 2023, unless he hits early.
All righty. Now that we've looked at the roster, I'll have my first question. I know what my answer is going to be. We'll see if yours is the same. At what you expect to be their ADP or their projected cost, who's the player you're most likely to target in drafts on this roster, obviously?
Target and drafts.
Yeah. Just what obviously CD's going to go low or low high. Dak's going to go in, a top 12 quarterback, just at what you expect to be their cost. Who would you be most likely to target in your fantasy drafts this year?
I don't know ADP exactly, but Tony Pollard might be going at a discount due to the injury. So I might be going after that. And I also see Brandon Cooks as a cheap hit. That's between those two.
That's my answer. It's every year. It's Brandon Cooks. He always goes 3 rounds later than he should.
Yeah, I look at him getting air yards this year still, like he's been everywhere, and he's very nuanced, and he's going to command good enough targets where he can get you a spot production and be steadier in what people would believe.
For the next one, I'm hoping you'll have an answer because I'm looking and can't really find one. Who is a player you would be you find yourself or you think you will be avoiding on this roster in drafts? Someone you'd think is just going to go too high. Maybe Rojo can't be Gallup. Maybe I don't really. Aside from if you think Pollard hype's going to get out of control and he's just going to be drafted as like a top 3 back, I'm not really sure who's going to be overvalued on this team.
This is a team where you look at the market, and when you think of the market on this team drafting these guys, Tony Pollard might be a little bit lower until we get more clarity on the injury of him coming back. But just looking at this roster in my head, that I feel like they got a good feeling on that. But I feel like his ADP is going to bump up in August. I don't know if he'll go top 3 though. I think the market's that ballsy.
No, I don't think so either.
And I think CeeDee Lamb is going to be the higher cost.
Yeah, well,
I like him.
A wide receiver. He's a top 5, pretty much consensus. So, but that's what I mean, though. Pollard's going to be probably a top 6, top 10, but he's probably accurately priced. CD's going to be a top 5. That's pretty accurate. Dak's going to fall between 8 and 12. That's pretty. I'm really having a hard time finding someone who I think is going to be overvalued. That's just why I said Gallup, because I think Gallup's going to go maybe a few rounds after Cooks, and I'd just rather have Cooks.
Yeah, I would rather have Cooks over Gallup if we're going to do that. If I had to say anything just from market, I would go with the higher priced one. And then also, if you think about Dak, if we're thinking this way, you could always just pay down at quarterback or pay up. That's the one other way. But when you look at this team, it's hard to have an avoid because some of these players at cost, it's appropriate. That's the thing.
Exactly.
So
do you have a sleeper you think on the team?
Sleeper Deuce, on maybe? The team.
Malik Davis, Deuce, maybe sneak in there.
My gut is going with Malik Davis.
Yeah.
Or maybe a combination of Malik Davis and Deuce for what we got right now. That would be a combination if something happened to Pollard.
Yeah.
Maybe a little sprinkle of Malik with Pollard in there full time, which you're probably not going to want it unless you're in a super deep league.
Yeah.
But we know the attrition at running back. We know that happens. It's hard to avoid. It's probably Malik Davis with a sprinkle of Deuce, which is something that you don't really want to see with a team.
All right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't really see anybody really stepping up and going crazy at the back end of this wide receiver core, which could happen because we have like these Devy names here, like Antonio Callaway's on the depth chart right now, like just weird Devy names that's done something in college or they always do this in the back end of the roster. They're good at getting Devy wide receivers that don't really materialize. I don't look for Jalen Tolbert to step up unless he really, really changes and does a 360. I just feel like if we're going to make a bet on a sleeper, it'd probably be at the running back spot.
All right. Where do you see them finishing in the division? And they finished with 12 wins. Do you see them with more, less, or the same this year?
I see them very close to that. Probably right behind it's just going to be a dogfight with them and the Eagles.
Yeah.
The Eagles should win the division, but it's going to be a dogfight between those two. I think Dallas is a good candidate to do a little better than what's expected out of them, but I also know that looking at the offensive line, that's something that's been a bugaboo over the last few years, and that's going to really be the pivotal point of this team as long as they can maintain their health and stay healthy.
Yeah, I think I have them repeating at the 12-5 and probably finishing second, but that's just because the Eagles have loaded up so much. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you, Bruce. Thank you for joining me. You want to take another shot here to plug yourself? Tell everyone where they can find you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me on the show. You can find me on Twitter at Metric Scout. You can also find my written content at dynastyleaguefootball.com. And then make sure to hit up my YouTube channel. About video every day on there, sometimes 3 to 5. And it's at Metric Scout. You search it on Bruce Matson. You'll find it. It'll be there. It's also linked on my Twitter.
Well, thank you very much, Bruce. It was a pleasure. It was nice to see someone who has some actual passion for their team. Once again, this has been my thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys with Bruce Matson. Check back in tomorrow for the next edition of the My Thoughts series. I'm Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and thank you for tuning in to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Take care, everyone.